What is up, everybody? I'm live from here in Austin, Texas, the mecca, the Bitcoin mecca, I guess, right? I mean,
Bitcoin
I'm here
Mecca.
in PlebLab, and I'm going to do this series for the entire week where I'm going to be covering everything that's going on. That's why, and uh, yeah, Sats by and South by Southwest kind of stuff, I guess, here or there. But just cover what everybody's doing here in Austin. A lot of builders going on, a lot of companies, a lot of great stuff. So first, we got Topher. What's up, man? How are
What's
you?
going on, Brandon? How's it going?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. So,
Welcome to PlebLab.
yeah, man, thanks for having me. Just put the mic a little
Yeah,
bit
I'm
closer.
about to commit a cardinal sin here for the audio engineers out there.
Oh yeah. Let's pop open a little. Oh, I got a little
Ooh.
foam. I'm sorry about that, but cheers,
I know
buddy.
you're happy to see me.
Yeah,
Control yourself.
of
Cheers.
course.
Mm.
So, Topher, I found you originally in the builder's room we got back here in PlebLab. We're not going to put the live camera back there, so you'll have to come to PlebLab to check it out. But why don't you describe a little bit? Well, first, let's get into you, and we'll get into the builder's room first or after that. But tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing in Bitcoin.
So I'm a builder. I like to build. I've been programming on and off for a few years now, but seriously for the past 2.5 years. And I've committed my life to Bitcoin. So I'm going to make this happen, Brandon.
There we
One
go.
way or the other.
One pleb at a time, right? Yeah, there we go. Rocket ship taking off. All right. So yeah. So tell us about the building that's going on in this this unique room that I like. That I'll have to say, I don't think I've seen anything really like it. Where you kind of have a dedicated room, not to just like coding or anything like that, but actually kind of getting your hands in circuit boards, all that kind of stuff, like electrical.
Dirty.
Yeah, exactly. So you got a couple cool things that you showed me. So why don't we get into a little? I guess it was like kind of like a game board kind of thing that you got going on.
Yeah. So Toshimoto.
Shout out Toshimoto.
Yeah, you might be talking to him later.
Yeah, he might come in.
He ordered a arcade machine, which actually comes packaged inside this this console that has some joysticks on it, and then the computer's inside.
Mm-hmm.
And it also came with the Bitcoin Switch. So shout out to Ben Ark.
Oh, awesome stuff.
Who made the Bitcoin Switch, and so we're going to rig it up so that you pay sats to play.
Yeah, and it's great stuff too, because you obviously it's like a big old arcade game kind of thing. You pay some sats, you get to play, you plug it in, and get it on the big screen and everything like that. But it's more like an old fashioned video game. I feel like, instead of quarters or dollars or something like that, you could actually have it fill out the lightning invoice. That's right.
It's like magic internet.
The magic internet money, right? And then, all right, let's go into the other thing, because I think this one's a little bit more complicated, at least on the back end or your end, right? But you have like a little, what is this? Like this little slot machine, right? And I did see the
slot machine.
I did see a basket of quarters, and I don't think I've seen that much like actual physical money in one place in a while, because everybody's just got the digital, whatever, credit card, whatever it is.
Yeah, coins. Yeah. What are those?
I don't know. People actually still use those, or what?
Yeah, they're not real. They're like these specially minted coins, I think, just for testing the slot machine.
Oh, I didn't even know that. You could have fooled me, man.
Yeah, and you might even be able to fool a vending machine. I haven't tried it yet, but yeah. So that is a little more ambitious project. We were trying to rig it up so that you could pay sats into the machine as credits, and then when you win, you get paid sats out.
Oh, that's awesome stuff. Yeah. So, but it's going to be like, just like kind of the goal is to have it as just a normal like little slot machine, right? So if you get the bells or whatever, it's a big jackpot, or is it going to be kind of like the similar payouts sort of stuff?
Yeah, well, things are a little different because it's with a lightning invoice. But the idea is we're going to use LNURL withdraw or Bolt 12, maybe. I don't know when that becomes a thing. But yeah, because like most machines where you kind of rig it up to take coins, or in this day and age, take sats, it's like you're putting money into the machine, then you're getting something physical out. Slot machine's a bit different because it's actually paying you money back out. So it's a bit more of a challenge to get that working. But yeah, we got some fun stuff cooking in the workshop back there.
Yeah. So how would that even work? Would you have it as, I guess, almost like printing out a, what is it, like a QR code or something like that, where you can scan that and that's how you would get paid? Or would you have to connect your wallet to it? Or are you guys still workshopping that?
We're still workshopping that because I don't like having those screens where it shows you a QR code. I just love the feel of a static QR code.
Yeah.
So static QR code for paying into the machine is very simple. LNURL covers that, and so does Bolt 12. Getting the money out, though, that's a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
So we're kind of workshopping some ideas on like what's the best flow for that, where for the end user it actually feels nice and comfortable,
Yeah.
as close to their fiat comfort zone as we can get.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the biggest challenge that we have in Bitcoin as the space is not necessarily convincing everybody that Bitcoin's the right use. So, having Bitcoin as the end dollar. I think it's just the UI UX with a lot of these things. So, I mean, you could feel free to push back on me on that, but I think the best case scenario would be kind of like the current system that we have now, where you go swipe your credit card or whatever it is. The average person has no idea what's going on in the background, right? They don't understand that Visa or MasterCard's like kind of covering that.
You're not going to type in your public key or anything like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So if we could have a scenario where maybe it's, I don't know, like a Lightning wallet or something where it's even like you could hook it up to Apple Pay and you could almost like tap to pay kind of thing. I think more people would utilize that than, obviously Bitcoiners are a different breed though, right? That they want their privacy and everything else like that. But I think,
no half measures.
Yeah, exactly. The average Joe Schmo probably doesn't really even, I mean, they're giving away their privacy.
We're going to build our citadels and raise our farms.
Exactly, dude. Exactly. So, but let's get into a little bit about what you're doing, right? You got the hat on, you got BitEscrow.
Yeah.
So, rocking it there. So, one of these hats for sale here at PlebLab this week, or is this one of a kind?
Oh no, this is just for employees only.
Employees only. There we go.
We might get a merch store.
Yeah, maybe that's something that we can workshop in afterwards. But what is BitEscrow, one, and what's your involvement in it?
So I'm the CTO of BitEscrow and chief architect. So what BitEscrow is going to be, what we're building it out to be, is the first true non-custodial escrow platform on Bitcoin that can still interact with the real world, but can provide people with escrow services with the trust that the Bitcoin blockchain is going to custody the funds and settle the contract, not us necessarily. So we don't have to touch the funds. We can help mediate disputes and we can help settle a contract in one direction or the other between two parties or multiple parties. But you can cryptographically prove just by looking it up on the blockchain that the funds don't go to us. It doesn't touch us. We can't mismanage your funds. We can't rehypothecate your funds. We can't do all these funny little accounting tricks with your funds. We literally can't touch the funds. So that's going to be our bread and butter.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like awesome stuff. So let's back it up first. What is escrow? And, let's, for the average person who maybe doesn't know anything like that. So what's a scenario that you would use escrow or something along those lines?
Well, I mean, anytime you swipe your credit card, you're using escrow. A lot of people don't understand that. So my background is I used to work in security and surveillance, doing hardware integration, working in construction, low voltage construction. Shout out to my C7s out there.
Shout out.
So one of the reasons people would call us in to install a camera system is because they have to retain sometimes up to 90 days of information about a purchase, because that's how long they have to wait until a purchase really truly settles on their system. So credit card companies will float transactions and keep them open so they can do chargebacks and stuff like that. So people use escrow every day just for that. And then you have like your PayPals, your eBays, like any other system that it's custodial. So they have the power to reverse transactions. So really your money is just in an account that can be reversed in case like there's ever a disagreement or something goes wrong. And 99% of the time that it works out well. That's what people want. People want that kind of protection. So
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you say that. It's like in almost every single transaction, and like we were talking, I forgot who I was talking to a little bit earlier, but it's like essentially the average person has no idea that that's kind of going on in the background. That those settlements are being transacted and kind of finalized after the fact. Whereas obviously the power of Bitcoin is those can be settled almost instantaneously. With the use of the Lightning Network and other things like that. So with escrow and kind of how you guys are building this out, I guess how can the user ensure that? Are you guys going to do some sort of multi-sig or something like that? Like how is that, the ins and outs? You don't have to give us maybe the full secret sauce, but
well, it's
I
going to
guess.
be open source, so
Okay.
it's
All right.
gonna, yeah, the sauce will not be secret on this one. So in order to establish escrow on Bitcoin, which has been like a holy grail for a while, you can do escrow on Bitcoin between Bitcoiners, no problem, because we're already settling on the Bitcoin blockchain. It's when you try to interact with the real world that it becomes a challenge. So DLCs try and solve this, but then DLCs still have this thing called the Oracle problem, where somebody you trust has to sign and vouch for a contract going one way or the other. At some point, you have to involve some trust. So how do you minimize that trust as much as possible? You can go the typical custodial exchange route where you just completely trust the exchange to manage your money, but that hasn't worked out very well recently.
You think?
Yeah, yeah, that seems to be the news. Like, what bank is exploding today?
I mean, okay, so yeah, I mean, it's not only like the funny thing is I think the Bitcoin and the lesser extent the crypto world has been getting a lot of bad publicity lately. And you just opened the floodgates about talking about this bank run thing that's going on like right now. But
Yeah,
I mean, we
this
obviously
is
we
a
had
topical show.
yeah, I know. We had what? Celsius, we had BlockFi, we had all these other ones that are kind of
FTX.
FTX. Yeah, I can't believe I missed that one. But maybe even Binance here in the future, a little foreshadowing for everybody
Yeah,
there. So I mean, if you don't have your Bitcoin off an exchange right now, what are you doing? But long story short, I feel like the average financial person would point to that and be like, hey, you need to regulate this. This is a reason why, Bitcoin, crypto, all that shit is bad. There's no regulation behind it. It's kind of just the open market. Well, look what happened like with this bank run, right? I mean, we're having, what was it, like Silicon Valley Bank was like
yeah.
the biggest name, but it's
I was really surprised by it. Who saw that one coming?
yeah, I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I've seen a few theories kind of tossed around where they think that the current administration wants to have four really big banks, and so what happens in these cases is like they're kind of trying to end regional banks. Silicon Valley Bank is just one of them, and essentially this bank is going to become like almost insolvent. So big brother, big sister, whatever you want to say, one of the big four is going to have to come in and just like bail these guys out. Because it's either them or the taxpayers. And then there's going to be more regulation. And it's just kind of a convenient excuse, I think, is like
Yeah,
all
just
the
kicking the can down the road yet
exactly.
again.
Exactly. And that's what all of this, the fiat stuff that is going on, that Bitcoiners just kind of point out of normie land. It's just consistently kicking the can down the road. And we're getting to the point now where the average person is waking up. I mean, at least I think, it's tough to avoid where your grocery bill was like $100 a week or a
Oh
month.
my
And
God.
now it's like 200 and
I
you're
saw a video of somebody doing some grocery shopping in Russia, and I don't know how true this is, but things look way cheaper over there. And Putin's been doing a lot of things recently, but one of the things he's been doing is hoarding gold. So like whatever they're doing with their currency, like they got kicked off of the Swift system and all this other stuff. Like the central banks tried to sanction them and kick them out of the platform, but I don't know. It just seems like inflation's hitting us a lot harder than it's hitting them. And then there's some other parts of the world, like in Africa, where things are just going completely off the rails. It's really scary, and it's sad because, like we're feeling it bad here, I believe, but there's other parts of the world where it's like dog eat dog.
Oh,
And
well, I mean, it's like super interesting that you say that about Russia because it's not only Russia that's been doing that, and it's also China too. And
yeah,
out of all the fiat currencies, the dollar has been very strong, except when it comes to like the ruble, I think it is, or whatever the Russian currency is. Like, I don't know, it's slipping my mind.
it
Maybe
is the ruble, I
okay,
believe.
yeah. I was like, about to say maybe this is Bud Light. That's making my brain a little fuzzy. But the ruble's been doing well. The Chinese yuan, it's kind of here or there. Obviously, they're rolling out their own central bank digital currency and stuff like that. But if you kind of look back, the Chinese and the Russians have been buying gold for a little bit of time. It hasn't just kind of started up. They've been doing it. I think for the past decade or so, kind of almost seeming like they're preparing for something that's happening right
Yeah.
now. I mean, it's almost like tinfoil hat shit. But I mean, the way that Putin kind of navigates the geopolitical waters, it seems like he's playing chess and we're playing checkers, and that the Russian and Chinese are kind of getting ahead one step at a time. And
Have
kind
you
of
seen the video where they compare the commercials for military service between their country and our country?
no, that'd
Oh
be
my
interesting to
God.
see. I mean,
It's
we're
it's a
kind of
shocking difference.
anything that comes out when it comes to the military, dude. I'm just like, what is going on? Like, we're caring about people saying yes sir, no sir, that kind of stuff because you know,
Zer.
yeah, it's
You have to get it right
it
these
assumes
days.
gender or something like that, where Russia and all that is like just yeah, obviously going to war and everything like that. Obviously, Ukraine, we don't want to see any war, any kind of thing possible, but it seems like this has been kind of in the plans for Russia for quite some time. And you know, chess not checkers. Like I said, it seems like Russia's always one step ahead of us, and I don't know. It's a sad state of affairs here
It
over
is.
in America, it seems, but we do have positives, right? I mean, we got places like PlebLab, we got other places building up a lot of great stuff.
We're building a sanctuary on top of a sanctuary.
Yeah, man. And every time, like I was telling Carr when I first walked in here, as last time I was here was late August, I want to say, like whenever BitBlock Boom was.
Yeah,
And
around that
that
time.
was when you guys just moved in here. It was all bare bones. Now coming in, I'm like, damn, this is like it's only been what, like 5-6 months or
Yeah.
whatever it is, and it's already looking like a completely new space. And it seems like you guys are building towards something new every single day. So, overall, just like outstanding stuff going on in here. So, on that note, like as somebody who's in the weeds every single day here in PlebLab and in Austin and kind of, interacting with the Bitcoin community here, what's, outside of what you're working on and all that stuff, what's the stuff that gets you most jacked up about, Bitcoin in 2023, even though we're in like a bear market and, everything else seems kind of doom and gloom and what kind of and whatnot. But what gets you jacked up about the Bitcoin space?
Inscriptions,
All right, elaborate.
not
What?
ordinals,
Why inscription?
inscriptions specifically. Uh, because, well, I'll say this. So we have a couple really cool events here in Austin because we do try to be the Bitcoin capital. And one of them is BitDevs. Now there's BitDevs like all around the world. But we have some really cool in-house developers here for BitDevs. And it's not like a cheerleading party. We're not just like grabbing our pom-poms and going rah rah. Like we're actually talking about seriously, like what's wrong, what's broken, what's going to blow up, like 1, 2, 5, 10 years down the line. What do we need to work on? And so there's been this conversation in the background that we always talk about, and that is Bitcoin's quote unquote security budget. How is this thing going to pay for itself once the block subsidy runs out? So that's a good question. I mean, fees have to go up. Like that, there's no argument about that. Fees have to go up. So I think it's cool that now these things have dropped. Inscriptions, Madman Casey Rodamore, shout out to him. Like
Shout
he
out.
built this library to essentially just inscribe data on the blockchain. Some of the geniuses that created the Taproot upgrade for Bitcoin decided, hey, we fixed a lot of the problems that we had with the previous version when it came to script execution and a few other things. So let's just like take the bumpers off. Let's just say you can just dump as much data as you want in a transaction. You want to rip 4 MB in one go, you go right ahead. The relays will probably not relay it, but if you bribe a miner, they'll slip it in the blockchain for you. And so people have taken a liking to that. It's gotten pretty degenerate, I do have to say. But that's fine. I mean, I feel like where inscriptions are now is just kind of like a fad. People are very new to it. It's like a new thing on Bitcoin. So you just see all the monkey JPEGs and all this nonsense being posted. But I think it's actually a really cool technology to be able to use Bitcoin as this way of essentially like a time capsule. Like you can inscribe data on the blockchain that you do have to pay for fair and square. I mean, you have to pay to play, and it's bumping up fees. And I feel like that's a good thing.
Yeah. I think, yeah. Hmm. It's interesting because I hear like both sides of it, you know, just being like I guess a guy, a content guy, I guess I'll put that hat on. But the thing where I think it's going to be a real positive is like you said, in the fees and when it comes to mining, because what I think has been getting absolutely crushed lately is the miners, right? I mean, these public mining companies, we've been seeing a lot of them
Yeah,
go bankrupt, a lot of them, you know,
it's tough out there.
yeah, and it's a very tough business because it relies on electricity and, you know, energy costs. And one thing that miners can control is like, hey, you know, I can lock in this rate, X amount of cents per kilowatt hour for 1 year, 2 years, whatever. But then it's like, all right, the energy company, we've seen obviously oil and gas, we've seen a lot of other energy prices just skyrocket. So I imagine, you know, as these contracts come up, that's going to get more expensive. It's going to be more difficult for those companies that are just strictly Bitcoin miners. And so, you know, I've kind of always had this theory that Bitcoin mining is going to become something where it's going to be either like a company that's like a Shell or something where they're using flare off gas, where it's like, hey, you know, we don't really need to do this. This isn't our main profit driver, but hey, if we can capture excess energy, why not do it? I mean, right? Or it's going to be something where it's like, I need to heat my home or I need to heat something. Instead of using you know, a space heater or something like that, like, why
Yeah,
don't
you're
I
already
utilize that?
burning electricity into the
Yeah.
air.
Yeah,
Might as
so
well
it's
making
always
some
like a
money.
double-edged sword. So they don't really care about how much Bitcoin that they're getting. The fact that they're getting some is just like a yeah, icing on the cake sort of thing, you know? So that's where I think it's kind of going. But this, you know, or what, you know, this also helps Bitcoin miners right now that have been kind of hurting and going through these bear markets and maybe over leveraged or maybe made a couple mistakes along the way of the bull market. It kind of gives them maybe a little bit more breathing room if they get, you know, a little bit more reward as they're mining these blocks and, you know, kind of helping them get some breathing room. Because, you know, at the end of the day, as much as the average pleb loves the depreciated Bitcoin price, it does hurt those Bitcoin companies or the companies like kind of related to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So, I
you
mean,
can't build a business around volatility.
yeah, it is very tough. And, you know, especially in mining, dude, like I feel for those guys. I really do, because, you know, it's hard to be a Bitcoin bull and then operate a mining company because you want to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. And like for a publicly traded company or a big company, you know, I think you got to compare Bitcoin miners to like oil guys or like gold miners or
Yeah,
whatever. And what,
same kind of like psyche. I feel like miners that I've met, it's like it's that drive to, I guess, like go out on an expedition and find a place that you can like find some untapped resource.
yeah. And but the biggest difference between those guys and Bitcoin miners is that those guys, like oil, you know, miners, they're not hoarding oil in barrels or anything like that. They're trying to distance themselves from the volatility of the asset that they're
Yeah,
mining or
that's true.
accumulating. Whereas like Bitcoin miners, a lot of them, you know, whether it's for Twitter likes or if it's for popularity or whatever, or if it's for true belief in Bitcoin, they are trying to hold Bitcoin as much as possible. And like you said, volatility is just tough for business, and especially, you know, when it's volatility to the downward slope that we've had, you know, since the 69K top.
Well, you may just be in the Bitcoin mining capital as well.
Yeah.
We got a lot of miners out here.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
A whole lot of
I thought that was
miners.
Houston, isn't it?
Oh, well, I mean, yeah,
I guess
maybe,
Texas in
maybe.
general. Texas
Texas
in
in
general.
general.
Yeah.
Do you know about the thing they're doing with ERCOT?
No,
The mining
let's hear
companies
about
out here?
that. Yeah, let's dive
Yeah,
into that.
so ERCOT is this board that helps manage the energy grid in Texas. And so recently, ERCOT has rolled out a program where I guess they got a bunch of regional power companies on board, and they got a bunch of Bitcoin mining facilities on board. And so what they're doing is they've kind of set up this system where they can broadcast the price of energy. Well, I guess it depends on the region, but they can broadcast the price of energy in real time. And so what they're doing is they're pumping this feed into the mining facilities. And the mining facilities are using it to kind of understand how to spin up and spin down. Like they want to spin up machines, spin down machines, depending on whatever the price is of energy at the time that they're getting it for. So one cool thing about this is that it makes it easy for miners to essentially just on demand spin up their machines whenever the price of energy is low. So there's excess in the grid. It's not really being used, like it's late at night or whatever. The weather's good. Then they get all this cheap energy and they can just mine away. But what's really cool is, and I think the real reason they're testing this out is that they've shown, if you go on the ERCOT website, they've shown this, that ERCOT can essentially spike the price of energy, and these mining facilities will react almost immediately because their machines are essentially glued into this price feed. So recently we had a cold snap where essentially everything froze over, and it also happened a year prior and then a couple of years prior. And when that happened, when it first happened, in my recent memory, essentially one of the things that went down was the power grid. It also went down like during this recent thing, but that was like a more local thing. And so there was like all this issues surrounding the spike in demand on the grid. Everybody's trying to turn on their heaters, and it just everything blew up, and it became a huge problem. So now what's been going on is whenever we have one of these issues, like if there's a cold snap, everybody turns on their heater, or if there's a heat wave, we also had a heat wave in the summer and everybody turned on their AC. ERCOT can just spike the price of Bitcoin or price of energy, and then the miners will do their calculations and pretty much just shut down the machines. And it frees up capacity to the grid. So it's like this cool relationship that ERCOT has built with mining facilities where they kind of help stabilize the energy grid in a time of crisis. And it's really cool to see. It's been enacted like 3 times now, I think, in like the past year and a half. And so far, it seems to be successful. And I just think it's really cool.
No, I mean, I agree 100%, but I'm going to play devil's advocate with you. So isn't that almost a negative where because of, the hash rate or whatever, that, essentially if there's, I don't know, some big winter storm in the States or in North America or where a lot of these mining facilities are located, we're having kind of extended periods where certain miners are, big percentage of the hash rate is, kind of flipped on and off, and it's not really consistent throughout. Do you think that there's a potential negative because of that? Or do you think, it could be something where down the line, mining is almost kind of seasonal, and because you can kind of, it's decentralized, Bitcoin mining can be decentralized and whatnot, it's better to kind of have, I guess, more facilities spread out, so you're, I guess, limiting to that potential like weather risk and something like you're describing where we have it not only just in Texas but kind of globally, whereas like energy, it had just essentially help stabilize grid all over the globe.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point that if there's extreme weather events and you're using a mining facility to help stabilize the grid, and they're essentially like in the same path of the disaster that you're trying to avoid. And I think there was some mining facilities that did lose power, and so that did kind of fluctuate the hash rate a little bit, although I don't know how noticeable it really was in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, that could be a concern. Ideally, you would want to, if you were going to do like roll this out on a national scale or global scale, like you would want your, it would actually be an interesting argument that you would want your hash power distributed. If you were going to say like, okay, this is a matter of like defense of our energy grid, maybe even like a national defense issue where it's like, there's always these headlines that I see pop up from time to time, like, oh, our infrastructure is so vulnerable to computer hackers from like foreign countries and they can just come in and shut something down. So we should probably upgrade our energy grid. And what a better way to do it than to actually like use Bitcoin miners to incentivize the revitalization and rollout of all of our energy infrastructure. And yeah, and then you would want it to be decentralized everywhere, because you wouldn't want the same hurricane that is like knocking down power lines to also knock out your miners. But yeah, that would be, I mean, that's a dream come true to me. I would feel like we would have won at that point. If like it becomes a matter of national security that we have to have mining in the US.
Yeah. I mean, I think like as we're kind of getting down, as Bitcoin's getting older and whatever, and like more politicians are kind of waking up to the fact that mining can help stabilize. Obviously, we've got Cynthia Lummis in Wyoming and like other states that are kind of embracing this mining to help stabilize grids and other things like that. I think.
And recapture green energy too, because there's a lot of green energy that doesn't make any financial sense. It just there isn't.
Preach it.
Yeah, and yeah, so like there's so many like great advantages that mining could have just in everyday life, like not even just like defending the Bitcoin blockchain, but like actually like help defend other things in our life, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I mean, I just think that the possibilities are endless, and we haven't even like scratched the surface, especially when it comes to mining. But I mean, yeah, that's just, it's exciting stuff that we got going on here. Because like you said, it's not only just, I mean, when I think of Bitcoin and kind of, I guess the Citadel is almost being built in the United States. Obviously, Austin's at the top of the list, but you think about a lot about devs here, right?
Yeah.
So you think about a lot of that behind the scenes stuff. When you hear, or when I think of mining, I think of Houston, and that's just kind of, I mean, I grew up here in Austin, but that's also because, oil and gas in Houston too. So it's always kind of been an energy spot. And then you think of like the media and kind of the coverage space being in Nashville. So, I mean, it is interesting though, that like here, like you said, it's not just that. It is, they do have a lot of mining facilities and everything like that. I mean, I know, Riot and a lot of these big Bitcoin miners,
you gotta check out the Riot facility.
Yeah. Maybe I could squeeze it in while I'm here. So yeah, I mean, it's overall just like exciting stuff. And yeah, man, I mean, there's just so much stuff going on here. It's awesome.
Yeah. I feel like you can't be more bullish on Bitcoin than living in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
Maybe El Salvador.
Yeah. Maybe El Salvador. But Topher, I don't want to take too much of your time because I know it's in the middle of the workday, and we'll kind of have some people rotate in and out here. But for those listening or watching or whatnot, where can they find out more about BitEscrow, or find you maybe on either Twitter or our Nostr or something like that? I guess we can't post your Nostr public key or anything, but
no, but I am verified on Nostr, so I could just give people my domain, my NIP5 domain, which I don't even remember what it is. It's kind of, well, anyways, so you can find me as BTC Tech Support.
There we go.
On Twitter. What other handles? I don't really do social media. What are other my handles? BitEscrow.io. I think proof0.work is my Nostr handle.
Okay. And then, so for those, obviously we went a little bit over what BitEscrow is doing and what you guys are kind of, working on, but where can they see updates? Are you guys going to be like releasing like updates periodically, or do I just have to have you on the podcast when you guys have something big released?
Yeah. All the above.
There we go.
So BitEscrow.io, we should have a mailing list on there.
Okay.
Sign up.
Yeah. So, yeah, for those
You can
listening,
learn
go
how the sauce is made.
exactly. And yeah, like the great thing about Bitcoin too is like all these projects are open source and they're,
Yep.
full transparency. So it's, obviously don't trust, verify. And that's truly,
Absolutely.
shown in all the companies. So, Topher, man, thanks for coming in. And, I guess feel free to just bug somebody at the desk and
Oh,
tell
I'll
them that,
go wrangle someone else.
yeah, tell them to
Austin over there looks like
yeah.
he's a little bored.
Yeah,
I'll go
I
grab
know
him.
he liked the tweet of what's going on here. So why don't you shoot in Austin and we'll keep this thing rolling. I appreciate it, man. Hey, cheers, buddy.
Cheers, Brandon.
I'm
Let me know
sure.
if you need a refill.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have you kind of come back in throughout the week too.
Sure. It's
We
going to be a
could,
busy week too. Got
yeah,
a
we'll
lot
have
going
people
on.
popping in and out. So awesome stuff, dude.
All right.
All right,
See ya.
let's
See ya,
squeeze it in the
folks.
next one. Yeah.